Every year for 30 years, tens of thousands of people gathered in Victoria Park in Hong Kong. They held candles. They remembered June 4, 1989. They were, for 3 decades, the largest public commemoration of the Tiananmen Square massacre anywhere in the world, a ritual of memory that the people of Hong Kong maintained because they understood, with a specificity that came from proximity, what it meant to live next to a government that erased its own history. In 2020, the vigil was banned. In 2021, the organization that ran it for 30 years was dissolved. Its leaders were arrested. In 2024, the vigil has not been held for 5 years. The candles that burned in Victoria Park for 3 decades are no longer lit. What happened to the vigil is what happened to Hong Kong. Between 2019 and 2024, one of the most open, free, and legally sophisticated cities in the world was fundamentally transformed, not by invasion, not by war, not by a sudden seizure of power, but by the deliberate, systematic, and largely bloodless application of legal mechanisms that the Chinese government had been preparing for decades. Hong Kong did not fall. It was dismantled. This is how it happened. Hong Kong in 2018 was one of the most remarkable cities on Earth. By almost every measure of urban freedom, institutional quality, and civic life, it ranked among the top cities globally. Its press freedom rankings placed it ahead of most countries in Asia. Its legal system, based on English common law, with an independent judiciary that regularly ruled against the government, was trusted by international businesses as the most reliable in Asia. Its universities produced world-class research. Its civil society was active, sophisticated, and unafraid. It was also, formally, part of China. The Sino-British Joint Declaration of 1984, the treaty under which Britain agreed to return Hong Kong to Chinese sovereignty in 1997, established the framework of one country, two systems. Under this framework, Hong Kong would become a special administrative region of China while maintaining its existing legal system, its freedoms, and its way of life for 50 years, until 2047. The promise was specific. The freedoms Hong Kong had under British rule, freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of assembly, an independent judiciary, the right to protest, would be maintained. Hong Kong people did not fully trust the promise. The Tiananmen Square massacre of 1989, which occurred 8 years before the handover, while negotiations about Hong Kong's future were still being finalized, had demonstrated what the Chinese government was capable of when it felt threatened by political opposition. The hundreds of thousands who gathered in Victoria Park to commemorate June 4 every year were not simply mourning the dead of 1989. They were making a statement about what kind of city they intended Hong Kong to remain. The handover happened in July 1997. For more than 2 decades, the framework held, imperfectly, with tensions and controversies, but broadly intact. Hong Kong's courts continued to rule independently. Its press continued to report freely. Its people continued to protest. Then came 2019. On February 12, 2019, the Hong Kong government introduced the Fugitive Offenders and Mutual Legal Assistance in Criminal Matters Legislation Amendment Bill. The bill would have allowed Hong Kong to extradite criminal suspects to mainland China, a jurisdiction with a legal system that did not provide the protections that Hong Kong's common law system guaranteed. The people of Hong Kong understood what the bill meant. They took to the streets. On June 9, 2019, an estimated 1 million people marched in Hong Kong, in a city of 7.5 million, one of the largest protests in the city's history. The government did not withdraw the bill. On June 16, an estimated 2 million people marched. 2 million people. In a city of 7.5 million. The government suspended the bill. It did not withdraw it. And the protest movement that had produced those marches did not stop. If this history is new to you, subscribe to Unsolved East and hit like. New episodes every week. The protest movement that began with the extradition bill did not end when the bill was suspended. It escalated. Through the summer and autumn of 2019, Hong Kong's streets were the site of confrontations between protesters and police that grew more intense with each passing week. Protesters occupied the airport. They besieged and eventually occupied university campuses. They used umbrellas, hard hats, and improvised shields against tear gas and rubber bullets. They vandalized Chinese state-affiliated businesses and the offices of pro-Beijing politicians. The police response escalated with the protests. Water cannons, rubber bullets, tear gas deployed in residential areas. Arrests that numbered in the thousands over the course of the movement. The protests were the largest sustained civil unrest Hong Kong had seen since the handover. They were also, ultimately, unsuccessful in achieving their stated goals. The extradition bill was formally withdrawn in September 2019, but 3 of the movement's other demands were not met. An independent investigation into police conduct was not established. Those arrested in connection with the protests were not released. Universal suffrage, the democratic electoral system that the movement demanded, was not granted. And then came the national security law. On June 30, 2020, Beijing passed the Law of the People's Republic of China on safeguarding national security in the Hong Kong Special Administrative Region. The law was not passed by Hong Kong's Legislative Council. It was passed by the Standing Committee of the National People's Congress in Beijing and imposed on Hong Kong directly, bypassing the city's own legislative process entirely. The law criminalized 4 categories of activity: secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign forces. The definitions were broad. The penalties were severe, up to life imprisonment. Cases could be tried in mainland Chinese courts under mainland Chinese law, removing the common law protections that had been the foundation of Hong Kong's legal distinctiveness. The law came into effect at 11 p.m. on June 30, 2020. By midnight, the political landscape of Hong Kong had been transformed. What happened in Hong Kong after the national security law was enacted happened with a speed that observers, including many who had been watching the situation closely, found difficult to track in real time. Within weeks, protest leaders were arrested. Some had already fled the city, anticipating what was coming and crossing into Taiwan or other jurisdictions before the law took effect. Those who remained and continued to advocate were systematically prosecuted. The pro-democracy political parties that had won significant representation in Hong Kong's district council elections in November 2019, elections held at the height of the protest movement, in which pro-democracy candidates won an unprecedented landslide, were effectively neutralized. Electoral rules were changed to require candidates to be vetted for patriotism. The district council seats won in 2019 were dissolved. The independent media that had covered the protests was dismantled. Apple Daily, Hong Kong's most prominent pro-democracy newspaper, with a circulation of hundreds of thousands, was raided by police. Its assets were frozen under the national security law. Its editor and executives were arrested. On June 24, 2021, Apple Daily published its final edition. Stan News, another independent outlet, was raided in December 2021. Its editors were arrested. It ceased publication. Citizen News, another independent outlet, ceased publication in January 2022 citing safety concerns. The press freedom rankings that had placed Hong Kong among the freest media environments in Asia collapsed. Hong Kong fell from 18th in the world in 2002 to 140th in 2022. The universities, whose faculty and students had been prominent in the protest movement, underwent significant changes in governance, curriculum, and academic culture that observers documented as a systematic depoliticization of the institutions. The Victoria Park Vigil, which had burned for 30 years, was banned. The national security law produced prosecutions on a scale that transformed Hong Kong's political landscape. The most significant was the prosecution of 47 pro-democracy activists and politicians, the largest national security case in Hong Kong's history. The 47 had been involved in organizing an unofficial primary election among pro-democracy candidates in July 2020, an exercise designed to coordinate their participation in the Legislative Council elections scheduled for that autumn. The government charged that the primary election constituted a conspiracy to commit subversion, that the plan to use a legislative majority to block government budgets was an attempt to subvert state power. In March 2023, 14 of the defendants pleaded not guilty. They were tried before a panel of 3 judges, no jury, as the national security law permitted, and all 14 were convicted. The sentences, handed down in November 2024, ranged from approximately 4 to 7 years imprisonment. In total, 45 of the 47 defendants were convicted. The maximum sentence among the group was 10 years. Jimmy Lai, the founder of Apple Daily, a British citizen who had built one of Hong Kong's most prominent media enterprises, was arrested in August 2020. His trial on national security charges began in December 2023. As of mid-2024, the trial was ongoing, making it one of the longest-running national security prosecutions in Hong Kong's history. His assets remain frozen. The British government, which had extended citizenship rights to Hong Kong residents following the imposition of the national security law, called for his release. Multiple Western governments issued statements of concern. The statements produced no change in his situation. The international community's response to the transformation of Hong Kong has followed a consistent pattern: expressions of concern, diplomatic statements, some sanctions against specific officials, that has not reversed or meaningfully slowed the process. China has described the international criticism as interference in its internal affairs. Hong Kong's transformation has continued regardless. Hong Kong is still there. The skyline is still there, the towers, the harbor, the specific density of one of the world's great cities still functioning as a financial center, still receiving visitors, still operating with the infrastructure and wealth that decades of openness built. What is different is harder to see from the outside. The newspapers that covered the city freely are gone. The political parties that won elections in 2019 no longer exist in the forms they took. The activists who organized the protest movement are in prison, in exile, or silent. The annual vigil for the Tiananmen dead has not been held since 2019. The legal system that attracted international business with its independence is being applied in ways that would not have been possible before 2020. The people who remain in Hong Kong live in a city that is legally, politically, and institutionally different from the city it was in 2018. Many people left. Between 2020 and 2023, an estimated 200,000 to 300,000 people emigrated from Hong Kong, to Britain, to Canada, to Australia, to other places where they could live under legal systems that resembled the one they had left behind. The emigration was not uniform, it was concentrated among the educated, the politically active, and those with the financial means and foreign connections to make leaving possible. The people who left took something with them that cannot be quantified. The one country, two systems framework was promised until 2047. There are 23 years remaining on that promise. The question of what those 23 years mean, given what has already happened, does not have a clean answer. What can be said is that the Hong Kong of 2024 is not the Hong Kong of 2018. The transformation was deliberate. The candles that burned in Victoria Park for 30 years are not burning. The city that lit them is not the city it was. The question of whether it can become that city again is the one that 200,000 people answered by leaving, and that the people who stayed are still living inside.